Hello and welcome to another episode of Hot Topics. It's game week 13 and Ben Chilwell looks like he'll have a long-term injury. So we need to look at the replacements, and with me to discuss the possible replacements is Wes Prickett, aka FPL Heisenberg. Wes, how are you doing?
Yeah, all good. Thanks, Ethan. How are you, mate?
I'm not too bad at all, but I think you had a pretty good day yesterday. What were you up to?
I did, yes. So if anyone follows me on Twitter, you'd have probably seen that I posted a little clip from the FPL show. So I went down to the studio in London for the first time. I'd been on the show on a Skype call in a few weeks ago, which was pretty
Uh,
cool. But yeah, to go down to the studio, bumped into people like Ian Wright and Tim Sherwood, which was pretty
wow.
cool. And yeah, had a blast, to be honest.
Did you give them any FPL advice when you were down there? Was
And
Ian Wright pulling at your shoulder saying, "Where's what do I do?"
he was begging me, but I said, look,
Yeah.
no fans at this time.
Too right, Wes. Too right.
But no, we said all right to each other, me and Ian Wright. But I tried to play it cool and just got nervous and didn't say anything. Just said hello to him and went and had my makeup put on for the show. Very funny.
Oh, very good. Oh, sounds like a cracking day out. Right then, Wes. Let's kick this underway. And I think the first player that I would like to talk about as a possible replacement for Ben Chilwell would
Yeah.
be Reese James. Why
Mm.
Reese James? Because obviously he's a Chelsea defender as well. He's been on cracking form, hasn't he, Wes? For 6.1 million, he's racked up 75 points so far this season. He's only played 9 games of 12 as well. What are your thoughts about Reece James as a replacement for Ben Chilwell, Wes?
Yeah, he seems like the standout replacement, doesn't he? Because
Mm.
uh, and the price points are quite important as well. He's slightly more expensive. Chilwell's 6.0 at this time, isn't he? And whereas Reece James is 6.1. So if you literally have zero in the bank, you might not be able to do it. Or if you bought Chilwell early enough, because some of the price ranges means you'll sell on value and all that sort of stuff. But they're close
Yeah.
enough. So as long as you've got a little bit in the bank, you should be able to make that switch. And yeah, he's just looking incredible
Mm.
in the form of his life. He's always looked good, but like in previous years, or like even earlier on in the season, it was like, oh, his minutes are a bit patchy, rotation. That seems to have gone out the window now. With I guess he's just playing at such an elite level. Over this sort of busy period, there might be some. He might be given a rest, but the way I'm seeing it is okay. If Reece James does get rested in one of the next 6 or 7 games, but plays all the others from the start, I'm happy just to accept that. He's that good that I would accept a 1 pointer in a random game week from a bench appearance from Reece James if that happens. I'm not saying it will,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying he's that good. I'll be willing to accept it. Whereas a few weeks ago, I chose Chilwell over Reece James just because I was a bit worried about that sort of thing. But it's just playing so well that I can't ignore him any further.
Let's look at the two highest scoring defenders on the game so far. We'll start
Yeah,
off with João Cancelo, 6.6 million. He's racked up 26 points in his last two matches. Whereas I think I remember in the Champions League a few weeks ago, he got a hat trick of
yeah,
assists, and
yeah.
everyone on Twitter was going, "Why can't he do this in the Premier League?" Well, he is now, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah, exactly that. And he's been another one that kind of last season was more of a rotation risk, and then now this season isn't. And that just shows how hard Pep is to predict. Someone like Diaz has been benched 2 times in the last 5 game weeks, whereas
Yeah.
I haven't got the stats from last season, but Diaz played a hell of a lot last
Mm.
season. Must have been the most minutes for an outfield player of the City guys last season.
Hmm.
Whereas this season, yeah, maybe because of Stones and Ake and uh,
Laporte.
Laporte doing well, then Diaz can afford to be benched in some easy Premier League games and then using the Champions League, which isn't ideal as an FPL asset. So yeah, and there's been quotes from Pep saying Cancelo's really fit, he can play 3 games in a week, blah blah blah. So yes, it's a busy period coming up. Yes, he might get the odd rest, but so might any player across the Premier League, to be honest. So again, Cancelo's one of those ones where you just, if he does be benched in a random game week and he gets you a 1 pointer off the
Hmm.
bench or something, then it's one of those where you think, okay, he's had his rest now, and from then on he's going to get me the points. Don't be worried about stuff like that anymore. Just these players are amazing. He's not in my team, and I think I'll probably do Chilwell to James myself, so I'll probably have to go another week without Cancelo,
Hmm.
unfortunately. But that's just because I can't get him in. If I could, then I certainly would.
Well, it definitely seems like the season to own these top defenders, whereas it's definitely about investing at the back. And to invest in a defender a little bit more expensive this time, Trent Alexander-Arnold, if you're an FPL manager and you don't already own him, he's matching João Cancelo for overall points. I think Trent's played a few less games than Cancelo this season. I think he had an injury at one stage. But yeah, Trent's picked up 38 points in his last 4 matches. Is he the best defender to own on the game, Wes? What do you think for value?
Trent, is he the best defender? Ordinarily, I would have said yes, but because of how well, for me this season, like before Chilwell got injured, it's like we had 4 Trents. We had Chilwell, Reese James, Cancelo, and Trent.
Yeah.
But what I would say is Trent the most? If I had to pick one defender now, base and factoring in price as well and the value for money with the other guys who are significantly cheaper than Trent, I do actually prefer the others based on that.
Okay.
Trent, what? I don't want my message to get confused. Trent is an amazing asset. I love Trent. He's in my team, and we know he's delivering, so he's doing well. But yeah, the other guys are doing as well as him, but for cheaper. So yeah, there's an argument to have, say, Cancelo, Reese James, and Alonso as your back 3, and that can be a cheaper back 3 than including Trent, and you can do just as well, if not better.
Okay, so perhaps, with all these different defenders performing so well at the minute and getting so many attacking returns, which we're used to seeing Trent Alexander-Arnold do every season, but now he's got competitors that he can get them for perhaps $1 million cheaper. Looking at these other options are perhaps more appealing.
Yeah, I think if you can't squeeze them all in, and let's say in your team, if you already had like some of the players I've just mentioned, Cancelo, Reece James, maybe you've got, or you want to bring in Reguilon, or maybe you've got Rudiger, or whatever you might have, there is an argument to say, look, these guys can almost match Trent. They're saving me a bit of money, which makes the rest of my team better as well, because, I think Alonso's maybe 2.2 million cheaper. Even Reece James is what, 1.7 million cheaper, roughly. I might be slightly off there.
No, spot on.
Yeah, so it's a lot of money. But I'm team. I still am team Trent in terms of you do want him in your team. But yeah, I'm really worried about. I don't want to confuse this message. Trent's an amazing asset, but the other guys are too for cheaper. I think the ideal formation now would be maybe 4 defenders, with maybe Livramento as your backup on the bench, who can also come in to be a back 5. But yeah, if you had the likes of Trent, Cancelo, Reece James, and then maybe Alonso as well, that could be an ideal back 4. Especially if Chilwell hadn't got injured, I'd say definitely move to 4 at the back. I guess now he is injured, maybe you don't need to do that.
Okay. Well, looking at another alternative, whereas another Chelsea player who you've just mentioned, I think, Marcos Alonso.
Yeah.
5.6 million. He started the season really well. Ben Chilwell, ironically, couldn't get in the team past him. He picked up 39 points in the first 6 game weeks. That's averaging 6.5 points per game. Could Marcos Alonso come back into this Chelsea team and pick up the form he started the season with?
Yeah, I don't see why not, because the system suits Alonso down to the ground. When I think they were playing a flat back 4 under Frank Lampard, weren't they? And it just didn't suit Alonso. With wing backs, it really suits Alonso. Chilwell in the Leicester game from that left wing back position was getting so far forward, was in the number 9 position at times. He obviously hit the bar and he had another shot that was saved in the second half. So Alonso will pick up very similar positions. And we know that he's got good attacking threat historically over the years. Obviously, he's not quite the player he was. And maybe he'll be, I don't know, will he be rotated a little bit over this Christmas period? I'm not too sure. So I'm not fully all in on Alonso. I don't think he'll play every single game over the next sort of 6 or 7. But like I just sort of, my point with the other guys, if they do get rested occasionally, you just take it on the chin because of what they do offer when they do play. And Alonso got 1 goal, 1 assist in the first 6 games, which how the defenders are performing at the minute doesn't even sound that good. But realistically, it's really good. It's really good for a defender. And he got, I can't remember how many clean sheets. I think it was 4. Was it 4 clean sheets or? Yeah, 4 clean sheets. So
4 clean sheets, yeah.
Essentially 6 returns, wasn't it? 1 goal, 1 assist, 4 clean sheets in 6 games. So, he did really well. Chelsea's defence is solid, and what I was saying earlier, if you haven't got any money in the bank, you literally can't go to Cancelo or Reece James without a -4, for example. Okay. So if you wanted to save that, you could go down to Alonso, who's 5.6. save yourself that bit of money and get maybe, you know, essentially Chilwell for a cheaper price.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You'll be playing in the exact same position as Chilwell. He can be just as good in terms of attacking play as
Yeah,
Chilwell. So yeah, I think it makes sense. But another option was I like to see it as perhaps James, Cancelo, Trent Alexander-Arnold. They're your top three. And then
yeah,
if you want to perhaps look at some other options, Alonso and perhaps Reguilon
yeah.
of Tottenham could be another alternative. So Reguilon's picked up 50 points so far, whereas that's the eighth highest of all defenders. And if I'm not mistaken, did you bring him in your team and he got 9 points and a goal against Leeds last time out? Did you have him in?
I didn't, but
Oh, did you not?
I was considering bringing him in for yes, I was freeing up some money for Harry Kane last week, so I took out Rudiger annoyingly because he did well. But yeah, I was looking at cheaper defenders,
Same.
and Regulon was on my was in my thinking, but I ended up going slightly cheaper just to save some more money. And yeah, obviously the Regulon goal would have been nice, but yeah, he's another player that under Conte in that wing back system. He's getting forward, he's joining the attack. He's a good footballer on the ball and can create chances. And I don't think he's going to get well. He's not going to get the same amount of attacking returns as the Trents, the Cancellos, or the
Mm.
Reese Jameses of this world. But he is significantly cheaper at about 5.1. He is, like I said, playing further forward now. Antonio Conte, is he going to sort out the defence? You'd think so, but Spurs are still a way off where they need to be. So I think for me, that's why I went against. I thought I went for Duffy, for example. I thought, right, Duffy's got a bit of goal threat. I trust Brighton more defensively, and he's cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
was kind of my thinking there. But obviously, Reguilon did get the goal in that game. So yeah, he's one of those where I wouldn't put anyone off getting him in because the fixtures are still good. The next three are obviously Burnley, Brentford, and Norwich. So
Mm-hmm.
very good fixtures, and you'd like to think that Spurs could get some clean sheets there. But yeah, just because of how poor they've been defensively, my kind of thinking was I don't want to be stuck with a defender that's over 5 million who can't get clean sheets. Whereas for my setup, I thought if I get Duffy's going to be on my bench more weeks than not. I'd rather just sort of bench a cheaper player. So Reguilon's at that awkward price point for me. I kind of like I like the expensive defenders a lot, and then
Mm-hmm.
I like almost missing out all the middle bracket and going for the likes of a Duffy, a Livramento, and that sort of price point just because they're a bit easier to bench and they help out the rest of your team. But yeah, that's not me to put you off Reguilon because he does have some good upside.
The fixtures are looking good for Tottenham, but
Yeah,
there's been a problem, I feel like, in the FPL discourse in the last few weeks of Spurs' fixtures are looking really good, but we're forgetting the point that Spurs actually aren't very good at the minute. So
yeah,
we're jumping on Son, we're jumping on Kane. People might want to jump on Reguilon because that's an attractive three fixtures, and you like to think Conte can sort it out. But like I was telling you before this show, was Tottenham looked hopeless yesterday. Obviously, it was a rotated team, but they had players like Harry Kane, etc., starting.
yeah.
Is it too much of a risk still to go for Tottenham assets, Wes, even though these fixtures are looking good?
Yeah, I feel like I jumped onto Kane last week. I fancied him for that Leeds fixture. He did end up hitting the post, and Spurs were improved second half, so it could have worked out. But yeah, I'm kind of in the same thinking as you now in terms of Spurs are. We knew they was in trouble anyway. It was kind of a thought process of okay, let's take a little bit of a gamble and hope that they can turn it around with two factors: the Conte factor and the fixtures. Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
a 2-1 victory at home to a poor Leeds team, is that turning the corner? Like you said, it was a rotated, but it wasn't. It wasn't like they didn't play the under 21s in that game. They played basically their sort of bench players, didn't they? They played the likes of Dele
big
Alli
players,
and
yeah.
Dumbele. They played their sort of players who will win to Premier League games should some of their first 11 get injured, and they had Kane. And from what I'm hearing from you and other people, they played shockingly in that game. I'm not sure how that affects in terms of the first 11 will come back in. So away to Burnley. Burnley are without Tarkowski and Westwood for this fixture. So
Okay.
yeah, if we're talking Spurs players in general, then I'm not. If it's one of those where if you've already brought in Son or Kane or Reguilon or whatever, it's not you're not going to transfer them out ahead of this fixture run. You've kind of made your bed. You've got to lay in it now and see out
Mm.
these next few fixtures and trust the sort of fixtures to bring you those points. And even if you think about someone like Son, he's not in my team, but he's done okay this season in a real bad struggling side. Kane scored last night in a struggling side. So if they can turn a corner just a little bit, then the best assets at those teams could be in the points.
Excellent. All right, Wes. I think we should wrap up, but before we go, I think I've got an idea of who, out of all those defenders we've mentioned, who would be your number one replacement for Ben Chilwell if you had to tell the managers listening now.
Yeah, it would be Reese James for sure.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Wes. Loving your insight as always. This has been another episode of Hot Topics. I've been Ethan James. That's been Wes Prickett, aka FPL Heisenberg. And we'll see you next time.